Hi everyone! Welcome to our first weekend review for the Dune War for Arrakis Kickstarter campaign. My name is Elena. I am joined today by producer Thiago Aranha and game designer Francesco Nepitello. How are both of
Hello.
you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm finally recovered from launch day where I slept very little. So it's good to be on my feet again and ready to talk to the people.
Yeah. What about you, Francesco? How was this week for you? Finally putting
Oh,
out there the
yes.
thing you have been working on for the past year, I guess.
Yeah, I lost count of the times we showed to friends the trailer for the game because we were so proud of that. And so yeah, but it was very intense because we debuted with the TTS with the tabletop simulator module. So for us as the designers, it's a incredible opportunity because we can listen to the feedback of the players and gather useful information in addition to our playtest to continue polishing the game to perfection.
Yeah, that's actually a good point to raise. If I'm not sure if everyone watching us knows that yet, but we do have a TTS module. You can play, you can try the game out. It's completely free, and you can get it now and give us your feedback. And that does not always happen. It's not always possible, right, Aranha?
Yeah. Well, it's a great opportunity to have the TTS out. Thankfully, the Herberts agreed to have that available to the people for them to try out the game, and even beyond that, I think it's an amazing resource for Francesco and his team who are still working on the game. The game isn't done until it's done. So I think having people playing the game, giving their feedback is an extremely valuable thing for us to see it almost in the field in this kind of preview form, right?
Yes, they say that is the game is ready when production is able to take it out of the hands of the designers. Otherwise, it will never be done. But yeah, it's a really good opportunity. We already got some interesting feedback. Things that we gave for granted could possibly not be set in stone. And so, for example, we're looking at ways to enhance um, the combat rules or pressions, of course, and that's also to make Thiago more comfortable. We're not going to. I mean, the game is done 99%, and so we're not going to make incredible changes that are going to completely change the outlook of the game, especially as components are concerned and so on. But there are so many ways to make important modifications by changing some rules, changing the text of some cards. So yeah, it's really important. If any player, if any fan out there thinks that they have some good ideas and so on, they can send them our way, and we listen.
Yep. Yeah, and of course it's been a great first 2 days of the campaign. We have like more than 6,000 backers. We've crossed the $500,000 mark, which is really great. So we're very happy with the turnout. People really seem to enjoy the game. From people who play the TTS, or just seeing the rule book and the dynamics and the components presentation. So we're happy. People are happy with the game. I think I'd like to start while we're still at the beginning, kind of address the sandworm in the room, which is shipping costs. It's a big topic of conversation, and let me go into a little bit into that. Yes, shipping is expensive. Why is it expensive? Because shipping is expensive. Because right now the prices are still high. Yes, some like container prices have gone down a little bit. That's great, but like last mile delivery and lots of the costs involved with shipping, they are still extremely high. The estimates we're using are based on the information we have. Like they're not making anything up. So it's a big game. It's a substantial game with lots of plastic and two boards and lots of cards. So it is like a hefty package. So that makes for expensive shipping. And the fact, and the obvious fact, should be like we're not taking any profit from shipping. We would never do that. Much to the contrary, whenever it happens, we take a loss on shipping. We will never charge our backers more, or ask for more money, or change our agreement with them in any way, even to our detriment. Like, for example, what happened with Trudvang, which was a game that we had to delay due to our own desire to make the game better, to improve it. We delayed the delivery to improve the gameplay, to make a good product. And that costs us a lot in terms of shipping, not only because we're delivering the game much later in a different climate where shipping is not what it was when we charged for shipping, but we even decided to do two-way shipping to get the core box in the player's hands, which certainly made shipping a lot more expensive. But we do care about our backers, and we want to give them a good product, and we want to respect the agreements we set with them, not in terms of certainly profiting from shipping. And that is why we like the estimates we set for the campaign. They are fairly high because we want to avoid any surprises. We don't want to open the pledge manager with prices that are higher than what we led people to expect. We have been blindsided by this before when the prices kind of caught up to us, and we don't want to go through that again. We don't want people to go through that experience again. So we are being cautious about the estimates, and that is already working. Like with Cyberpunk, the actual final shipping costs ended up being lower than the estimates. We hope, ideally hope, like we're going to look again at the shipping prices before the dispatch manager comes out, and if we can, we will certainly make it lower. I hope we can deliver a final shipping price that is actually lower than the estimates. But that's the intent. We want to make sure that we're not over-promising and all that. And so going back to we have a game that is like, it is an expensive game. It has lots of plastic, lots of components. The price that we set, and we said like the MSRP for the game is $140. That is the minimum price for retail that we can make, because that is like, if you take the cost plus royalties, because this is an IP game, that is the price. But seeing that yes, shipping is expensive, we decided to do something we'd never do, which is make the base pledge $30 lower than what the MSRP is. Like for almost every campaign we do, always the base pledge is the same price as the MSRP for the core box. Not in this case. We are giving a $30 discount, which we would hope people would take it as, no, we're trying to make the situation a bit better. I don't know if we should have put this $30 into the shipping, if the perspective would be a little better, but I hope people understand it's all the same. If we keep the same MSRP but take out of shipping, we're giving a $30 discount. That's what we were able to do. I hope we can do the actual shipping even lower than what was expected. As far as the campaign itself, as people have seen, it is a shorter campaign than compared to some of the other ones, and that is simply because of what the game is and what we wanted to add to the game. Because basically, Francesco and his team, they created a game. They created everything that they thought could benefit the game in terms of extras and expansions and all that. And we just, okay, so what can you do? We looked at it and we said, okay, that's fine. So this can be an optional buy. These we can use as stretch goals, and that's it. Like, we're not going to force you to come up with more stuff just because you need to feed a campaign if that's not going to benefit the game itself. So looking at that, we decided, okay, so this is, I think, let's tailor the campaign to this content, to this game. So we make the game that we want to make. We make a nice experience for the gamers without bloat, with cool stuff, everything in service of the game experience, to make Dune fans happy and make fans of a good game happy. And of course, that said, if you look at what we're offering and you don't find it attractive, that's fine. We understand. If you don't think it's a good deal, that's okay. You can wait for retail. You can do a $1 pledge and wait for later. Like, it's okay. We're not we're not offended by it, as long as people are respectful as they do it, which they then not always are. We would ask you to be, and of course, we would like more people to be in full bore on a full pledge. It would help us unlock more stretch goals. I would hate to leave stretch goals, on the table, as you would see. But we're still only 2 days in. We still have 6-7 days, depending on how you look at it. So enough of that. I hope we can move past this and talk about the game and the campaign and all that. Thank you.
Well, I already have a game question, if we can get right to that. How is the game duration versus War of the Ring? Now, people do have the TTS model, but TTS does not always reflect actual gameplay time with physical components, right?
And also, that's one of the elements that are going to be affected a lot with the final polishing of the game. The pace, the exact pace of the game depends a lot on many factors. Of course, it depends also on your experience in the game. Also, War of the Ring, if you play it for the first time and you're just reading the rules, it's going to take 7 hours. I mean, we always say just play a few turns, stop it, and then start again in another day. This is not the case for War for Arrakis, because we have an extremely streamlined setup. So the setup is incredibly shorter compared to War of the Ring. And as far as the rest is concerned, the pace for a strategy game like that cannot be too short, cannot be too long. Otherwise, you're not going to play it that much often. And we want to have players be able to feel that, to have that experience and repeat it several times. So we are aiming for something that goes between 2 and 3 hours and so on. Right now, with the current state of the rules, we feel that it is a bit shorter than that. But we are not going to have modifications that are just there just to make the game longer, of course. But we are looking into things that are going to make you feel that strategic pace, the idea that you are fighting a long and difficult battle against the enemy. So I don't have a final answer on the game length because of that, because we're still fixing, tweaking things that are going to affect the length of the game. Oh, just to correct myself a little bit, because I said, of course, we're going to listen to the feedback of the players, but speaking from experience of many very involved games like Age of Conan or War of the Ring, you need to play the game a lot to be able to draw conclusions. I've seen some very hasty conclusions as far as strategies are concerned in the game. Like there's a winning strategy, the opponent should do that to win. It's not really like that. Apart from the fact that, of course, the game it's still in progress in a few things. So and these things are going to affect balance. But apart from that, it's a type of game that I think it's even more open than War of the Ring. It's even more flexible based on what the opponent is doing, based on the action dice you get. So it's not, don't just jump to conclusions and think, okay, the game, to win the game with the Arconin, you have to do that. To win the game for the Fremen, you're going to do that. It's not that easy to pin down. We've seen so many strategies in years, for example, as far as the War of the Ring is concerned, that everybody's, okay, the game is broken because you could do this and win the game. And of course, it wasn't true. And so I know for sure that that's the type of situation that you find with games of this size. It might seem apparent, and it can depend on many things. Maybe you play the same opponent, maybe you play the same faction over and over again. You can switch position and see how these things affect the outcome of the game.
I see also a question here that I think we addressed in the last live stream, but I'm not sure if everyone joining us today was here last time.
Sure.
So if you guys don't mind, how does the 4-player Dune play out versus the 2-player one?
Okay. Well, it depends more on the composition of the group, because it's the same game. It's a cooperative game, so the aim of the two factions don't change compared to the two-player game. What makes the game different is the interaction between the players in the same team, because eventually you will be able to see also the components that go in, that are used in the 3 and 4 player version of the game. You have separate dashboards, so you have some limitations in the way how the players in the same faction cooperate. They basically divide among themselves the action dice results based on the faction they're playing. And so that makes for a big difference, especially if the two players are not able to cooperate efficiently. But, and differently from War of the Ring, for example, you don't have a difference between, you can use all the armies on the table. So it's not that you can use only some of the figures. So it's not such a dramatic difference between the two types of, but it makes for a very smooth gameplay. So if you are more interested in a sort of a team experience, then play the 3 or 4 player game. But still, it preserves the concept that it's a two-faction game, one faction against the other.
Anything to add there, Aranha?
Well, go ahead. And I was just thinking there's some additional elements in the 3 and 4 player games, like additional characters, because balance needs to be preserved in the type of actions that the factions have available. But
basically in the like the Harkonnen, when dividing the Harkonnen into two, the House Corino plays a bigger part, because I think in the 2-player game it's more focused on Harkonnen than Corino so much, and then you do have more leaders and all that coming in the 4-player game, right?
Yeah.
My understanding is we're talking a lot about similarities and differences with War of the Ring. So I just remembered something. I have seen several comments, not right now, but overall in the campaign in the last few days, of people saying, "Oh, but the miniatures, they are just so small if they are like War of the Ring." And I understand that you have a few of them with you, Aranha, right?
Yes, I think one misconception when we say it's like it has the pedigree of War of the Rings and it shares a lot of elements. The miniatures is not really one of them in terms of like what we're bringing to the table. From the beginning, we wanted to bring something that really felt like miniatures, and you saw the characters and the poses and bringing the personalities and all that. So the scale is bigger than War of the Rings. It's a bit smaller than our usual like kind of Zombicide things. So it's 28 millimeters to the eyes as opposed to 32 to Zombicide. So if I can compare something here, so I have Doug here from Zombicide. He's kind of one of our standard guys we use when
size
scaling
comparison.
Zombicide.
He's the size comparison guy.
Yeah, usually when we're sculpting, we usually have Doug there as our kind of standard 170 meters. So here we have him next to Stilgar, and you can see that Doug is bigger, but it's not that this is a tiny figure where you see no detail and you can't like do a nice paint job, as you can see in the examples we have on the website with a big child painting these figures. They're painting these figures at this scale, and they're able to really make them pop. So it was basically we make them like everything in this game. We made as big as we could possibly make it while still serving the game and not becoming a hindrance to gameplay and everything. We didn't make it smaller to cut on costs. I would have made this game at
the biggest size possible.
The biggest size possible. I would have a sandworm that is this big if I could, but we're making a game here, and we need to focus on the gameplay experience. That said, we like I said, the sandworms are still like impressive beasts on the table. I think that they have amazing table presence when they pop up. It's really like I think a nice moment to see these guys threatening your troops. We have like little Paul Atreides summoning a sandworm.
I think that I think you made a good choice with the figures also by adapting. It was more of a resizing the bases, right? To make the bases smaller, because of course that's the main thing that occupies space on the board, but keep the figure as big as possible. So in general, it's the ratio between the size of the figure and the size of the base that has been changed compared to what Simon usually does. So
yeah, exactly. And then that means, for example, for the like the more like the regular troops, that you have more of them on the board. Of course, we try to keep their poses a bit more contained, so we could give them smaller bases. So here's one of the alt sculpts we unlocked during the Kickstarter. So like the regulars would be a bit more contained poses, while when you get to some of the the elites, like the Sardaukar, like they are allowed to be a bit more spacious and breathe a bit more because you have less of them, so they're not going to become a problem on the board. Like I really love this Fedaykin, like a very action pose, which also helps you identify them. And
the shape of the base also.
Right. When you see someone jumping into action, it is Fedaykin. Besides, the base shapes that we did, like you have like small round bases for your regulars, and then big hex bases for your elites. And then small super elites, small hex bases for normal elites, big round bases for your leaders. So. And then you also have like color differentiation. The minis are not like that ivory color that we show them many times. That's just a color we use just to help present the sculpt as best as we can on banners. Like we do have the Harkonnen red and the Atreides green, and different shades for the leaders and the units. So it's very easy for you to at a glance know which units actually add dice to combat and which are adding abilities to combat. So everything's serving the gameplay while looking as good as possible from a fan perspective, right?
Yeah.
And since we're looking at stuff we have unlocked, I see a few questions about possible futures. Can you guys tell us a little bit more? Maybe Aranha has a few of them there?
Yeah, I have them here. But in terms of the concept, because one of the big challenges in terms of like doing Dune and doing as much as possible in Dune is like a lot of the cool characters that you have in the book, they don't really play much of a role once the war starts. A lot of them die or they get sidetracked. They are isolated somewhere else. So it was a really cool thing that Francesco's team came up with, and it was we had to have some conversations with the Herbert estate, present our propositions for these stories, present something that they felt was within the spirit of Dune, like it was acceptable to play around with a timeline like this in terms of exploring the possible futures, and which is a central thing to the story itself. And this is why I find it great, because it's not just a mechanic, it's not a gimmick, it is the story. Paul is always struggling with, if I do this is the future, but if I don't, then the universe falls in this direction. And so here we follow, what if this small change happened and then now this character is here, and the fact that this character is here, it changes how this character acts and it changes the other side. Like everything has repercussions. So thematically, I think it's amazing, like the fact that we're weaving stories and we're changing the dynamics of the game naturally, but then it also just adds more mechanics and dynamics. It's basically different setups, which each of these characters that you add. Francesco, if you can go a bit deeper while I.
It's exactly like you said. Again, we took the inspiration from the story. The thing that what happens in the story is one of the many possibilities that the future could have had in store. So whenever you use the possible futures characters, you don't just take character and place it in the game. You have to choose a what if, one of the possible futures. And all the possible futures are scenarios, basically, scenarios that are telling what could have happened if, for example, Duke Leto survived.
If I can interrupt, I think Liet Kynes' future, I think one of the most interesting ones, because the fact that Liet Kynes survives and remains the leader of the Fremen affects Paul's destiny, because he calms down the Fremen so he doesn't prove himself, like all the ramification of that, and then he never really becomes like the really what all that he could be, and then it just shifts the whole thing. Just the fact that this character doesn't die, I think it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, that's exactly the idea. And it was cool to have the Herbert Foundation go along with it, and we had, of course, to propose our possible futures and to have them approved by them. And so it's not simply, as I said, just a matter of choosing one character or another, and everything is interconnected in the scenarios. And that, of course, gives additional replayability to the game. Oh, by the way, just because I saw a comment talking about this, the setup also ensures replayability because we found a way that is at the same time is quick and at the same time is flexible. So the setup for both factions is as if you play the TTS module, you have seen it. It's partially randomized, but still within a level of balancing that allows for not to have any subpar situation for any of the two factions. So yeah, every time you play the game, it's not going to be the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Here's the one we just unlocked. Jamie's,
yeah. I love it because it's sorry, Helena, because it just looking at Jamie's just made me think of how, for example, that idea was put in the Villeneuve movie, when you see visions of Paul talking to Jamie, saying things they never say to each other because it's one of the possible futures, and they eventually end up interacting in a different way in the movie. So that's very much the concept behind all this.
Yeah. I have a follow-up question, I guess. So each added leader is a scenario. Should we play them together or separated?
So the leaders, they some of them combine and some of them are individual. Like they all kind of belong to their own scenarios. Some of them, like they interact. Like if I don't want to try and say something because I think I might bring up another future that maybe hasn't come to pass yet. But like,
are you seeing some possible futures as well?
I'm having visions all the time. I'm all spiced up. But yeah, because the fact that the way we present it on the campaign, it kind of explains this setup. Because this character is here, then this other character is also on the other side or on the same side, or that character is not in the game because all these different dynamics. So it's several different scenarios that use those characters in different ways.
Yeah, not to play up too much the expectations. It's not. It is an easy implementation of the concept. We have a number of scenarios, and the scenarios present different combinations of the characters, playing up a different version of the story. What I'm really looking forward to see when the game will be released is to see the possible futures that other people will come up with, because it's absolutely what we did within the limitations of the license is to create a finite number of possible futures combining the characters, but nothing prevents the players to say, what if Jamies did this together with, I don't know, Gurney Halleck, and find out another possible future and create it and put it online, available for all the other players to enjoy. And to enjoy the game as much as Thiago is enjoying flying.
I'm playing here because someone in the comments asked to see some vehicles, and I just enjoy.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
it's not for my own amusement. This is work. This is
our standard answer.
And again, I brought this up in the previous one, but I really love how the carryall and the harvester they are meant to connect, and we have concept of the carryall attached to the harvester. How it was all developed to rethink how they work, and how it is a thopter, but it is a kind of a big mono wing with little wings, and all that. Yeah, I love these designs.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Sorry, go ahead.
And speaking of cool things, so we have kind of started to do some blinking to the game. First, as far as the alt scopes, which enrich the presence of all the armies on the table. But now we're also done some exclusive stuff, starting with the villages, which are some very nice 3D tokens to make the board come alive.
Yeah, really cool. Small. I love how it's really, really small, but you can see it's a whole town.
Yes, it's full of detail. Well, it's a village, it's a peon village, but no, nothing to scoff at.
Well, since we are speaking so much about looking into the future, shall we look into a possible future?
Well, I think let's make a possible future a reality, right? People have been trying to get to this point, so I think time for spoilers. And reveal is no longer spoiler; it's just a reveal. So yeah, we have our first optional buy coming up today. So how about we explore a nice expansion by looking at an amazing piece of artwork by Stefano Moroni?
Yes.
Please.
Shall we have this vision together?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, what do we have here?
What do we have here? Let's see. I'm wondering if the comments will interpret this correctly.
Yeah, I love this piece of artwork. It's actually my wallpaper on my screen here. Like if you see in high resolution, it's really impressive. It's kind of psychedelic, and yeah, anybody who knows Dune knows that this is a guild navigator, like a few of them, with a very impressive guild highliner in the background. So yeah, we're adding the Spacing Guild. Yeah.
Yes.
to Dune. They are coming to Arrakis.
Spacing Guild.
Yeah. So this is an expansion?
Yeah.
Yes, many people are getting it right now. We passed the test, I guess.
Traveling without moving, exactly. Bend the universe around you.
So what are we looking at? What's in here?
So this is a very exciting expansion. I think it brings like a whole different side of the Dune universe into the scope of our war on Arrakis with the Spacing Guild, and not just the Spacing Guild. It's like the Imperium as a whole coming and getting involved like more directly into what's happening on Arrakis.
Yeah, it's not exactly. I mean, it's a way to expand the perspective and looking outside of just the surface of the planet, but still to serve the goal of the game is to represent the war for control on the planet. And so it's a sort of ancillary expansion. I mean, it's opening up another section of the game, but it's still part of the whole mechanism.
Quite literally, might I add. May I show it?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Quite literally, a whole new section of the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, so here you can get a glimpse of how it adds to the board and the game itself in the form of it basically adds space to your board in terms of the gigantic guild highliners traveling through the basic gist of it is the gigantic guild highliners bringing reinforcements from the Imperium into the battle to aid each faction according to what they do to gain the support of the Imperium, right?
Yes, both factions in the game not compete, but they try to navigate for the support of the Spacing Guild into getting additional forces on Arrakis. And this is tied to the mechanics of what for the moment is called the displacement flow track for the Harkonnen player. So how the Harkonnen faction is able to summon support from the Choam, the Spacing Guild, and the Landsraad, and at the same time, the Atreides faction is trying to do the same thing, but in a different way. Again, we see here the same asymmetrical gameplay, because the end result is the same for the two factions. You are basically trying to use the Guild Highliners to bring either additional troops, these are House Major troops that can fight for one or the other side, and frigates. And so ships that are much smaller than a Hayliner, that that entire fleets of frigates can stay inside the Hayliner, but much bigger than our helicopter and more powerful. So if you can bring those with you to fight for you on the planet, you're going to be able to use their support on the fight. So as I was saying, there are asymmetrical ways to bring them into play. What you do is you have to find a way to get Imperium actions. We call Imperium actions. Imperium actions are aimed at either speeding up the arrival of the Hayliners, moving from where they start to Arrakis, or to court the Landsraad and the Houses Major to give them troops to fight for your faction, and put them into the cargo hold of a Hayliner that is represented in the game by the small board you see on the right and on the left, depending if it's the cargo hold devoted to the Harkonnen faction or to the Atreides faction. And another part of the cargo hold can hold instead frigates that are brought there by courting support from the Choam. And if you play the game on TTS, you know that you can affect the support of the Choam, the Spacing Guild, and the Landsraad by spending spice if you're the Harkonnen player. And whenever you do so, you additionally get Imperium actions. So if you're able to, for example, raise the position of the Spacing Guild on the Spice Must Flow track, you can move a Hayliner faster to reach Arrakis earlier. If you instead maintain the position of you can spend these actions in three ways. One is speeding up the Hayliners, another one is putting troops in the cargo hold, and another one is putting frigates. You do the same thing if you are the Atreides player by achieving your objectives through the Prescience cards. You know that the Prescience cards have different ratings on them. The amount of the points on the card that you achieve are used to buy Imperium actions. And so
I think I really like the bridge between the theme and the mechanics, because it's an asymmetrical game, so you want each faction to deal with this new component of the game in an asymmetrical fashion, and this comes about because the way that Paul gains the support of the Imperium is very different from the way the Baron Harkonnen gains support from the Imperium. Paul, he's evolving in his prescience, and the Guild navigators, they are terrified, by his mere existence. He's a fulcrum in their vision, and so the more he fulfills his prescient visions, the more he's able to use that influence to gain support of the great houses of the Landsraad, the corporations of Shoam, and the Spacing Guild. And on the other hand, you have the Harkonnen, which is it's spice. Get spice, pay them, bribe them, get them on your side. If you pay them well enough, they're gonna work for you. They're gonna give you the troops. They're gonna give you the frigates. They're gonna move faster than Highliners. And I really like the aspect that those the House Major troops, there are, as you can see, they are all gray, which means with bases for the factions. And so there are you have more bases than half the figures. So there is a kind of a race to get those figures, because once you've used all your bases, maybe you've deprived the enemy from conscripting more soldiers for their side. So there's a nice race, both in terms of getting your Highliner loaded and into Arrakis in time, and just getting the resources, getting to the houses, to the Landsraad before your opponent does. So it reflects like the political machinations and the push and pull of allegiances in Dune. I think we can go to the next slide to look a little bit at these things.
Yes.
So here we have the Highliner and the frigates for each of the houses. And again, here's another case where, like, initially the Highliner, like, it wasn't quite this big, but then once we got the first samples, it's like, can we make them like a bit bigger? Everything 10%, 20%. So again, I'm always trying to make this to give it as good a table presence and even a toy feel, just playing with your ships, as I can. And I really love, like, the Highliner it's always like, it's one of the things that have been depicted in the most varied ways because it's such a vague kind of beyond imagination thing. So I love the interpretation. It's kind of a regal thing. Like, it has like a fairly like ornate aspect to it, as well as a technical side to it. So it's a work of art as a machine, and you can imagine like the gigantic ships just coming out of this small hole at the front, because it's like a gargantuan thing with its Holtzman engine at the back. Oh, I remember that. I didn't know I had this in my mind. The Holtzman field and all that.
Not surprised, honestly.
I'm getting flashback of all the Brian Herbert books where they explore all the Holtzman effect. Anyway, so, and then you have the frigates for the two factions, and it's really great because this is like the only chance for the Atreides to actually have some air power in the game, like because in the base game only the Harkonnen have all the vehicles and thopters and carryalls and all that, and the frigates, I think they add a lot of an important aspect to the game, which is like both in terms of troop transport and just sheer bombardment of troops on the board. So it really changes it opens up new strategies to soften up your opponent, and now you have a struggle for control of the air zones as well. So that there is choices you have to make in terms of sacrificing one of your frigates to deprive your opponent of their frigates and take over one strategic point. So I love all the extra layers that it adds to the whole game.
Yeah, and I think that if you know the story, you also can recognize why we did that. You know that in the story there's a big final confrontation where all the orbit around the planet Arrakis is filled with countless ships coming from all over the Imperium, potentially to side with the Harkonnen against the Fremen and together with the Emperor. And that, of course, is one of the possible futures. Is exactly what happens if you are able to play the game in a way that the Harkonnen faction is bringing the troops and the frigates all to themselves. So to have a final, because of course this is going to happen in by the middle and later parts of the game, because you have to bring the troops there. But of course, the gameplay will dictate that possible future. It's not going to be the same that happens in the story. Of course, if you don't play with the Spacing Guild expansion, it is still there, the idea that the final confrontation is there, but that's tied to the victory conditions.
One thing I saw a comment about, so one player gets the support of the Spacing Guild and then that's it. No, like, this is a constant back and forth. Like, this is it's Highliners going back and forth, and those units being used in battle and then being re-recruited and going again. Like, it's a constant flow every round. This is always happening. So it's not it's a tug of war, basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that in the story it is well specified that, for example, an entire Atreides fleet could occupy just a tiny part of a Highliner cargo space, and in the same Highliner there could be Harkonnen and Atreides at the same time, and they would not be allowed to harm each other. So that's exactly what you do in the game. You are bringing. You are using Highliners for both factions. It's showing this this thing that the Spacing Guild was playing a difficult diplomatic game between in the struggle for the
because
control of the
all
Imperium.
these powers, they couldn't throw in completely with either side. Like they just want to come out with spice at the end. Like they need to keep
Yes.
the engines greased with spice. So whoever wins, they need to court them in a way. So that's kind of the dynamic we have there. Can we go back to the minis?
Yes, the frigates.
Yeah, the next one. I think
The next one, yeah, because I just saw this comment. Could you show some guild infantry units, please? Yes, here they are.
So they're not actually guild infantry. Those are house major troops. They are the troops from the great houses in the Imperium, the Landsraad, which are coming to the aid of the different factions. And then we have there
the Guild Navigator.
The Guild Navigator, which was one of the most exciting things to work in this whole project, because the Guild Navigator it's a central figure of Dune. They are humans who have kind of evolved in spice to develop their prescience in order to be able to see into the future, to steer the Guild Highliners through space, find a safe route through space by glimpsing into the future through the use of spice. And these figures, they have been depicted in very different ways across different films and games and all that. And so I was very excited to be able to bring our version of this directly based on the book. Like we were heavily influenced by what Frank Herbert describes in the book, which is not much, but what, because they are very mysterious. They're just floating in this mist of spice. But he does have some characteristics which we followed. And this was it was one of the longest ones to work with the Herbert estate, going back and forth, doing tweaks, and in terms of the design of the tank, the design of the navigators themselves, how human they are, how alien they are, how kind of sea creature like they are, and so. And in the end, I'm very happy to have this kind of mark where our brand manager, Joe Lefevre, who's an amazing guy, he said they were the Herbert Estate said that this is the representation of Guild Navigators in their opinion. This is the closest anyone got to what Frank Herbert meant by the Guild Navigators. So that is going in my. I didn't design it, but I was there watching, so I'm putting this in my curriculum. But Stefano Moroni has all the accolades for designing this piece, and yeah, you have to see that art up close. It's really, really amazing. Not just the creature, but the tank itself, and as a, you could come back to me as a piece. It is really like a real nice piece because it's one like a human there floating. It's a very big piece compared to the others, and you are able to put a lot of detail into this, like the tank itself and the spice cloud in the bottom and the navigator there cradled inside, and
quite a table presence.
Yeah, love this guy.
And finally, I guess we'll go. I guess you guys covered most of this already, but the expansion brings planning cards for all factions.
Yes, yes. Considering that the expansion brings some more moving parts to the game, it was of course it was natural to give additional planning cards to all the 4 decks in the game, to eventually being able to use them to play them to maximum effect. So since the decks are not big, are not huge in the game, you don't have too many cards, so it's adding just a few to the original decks didn't change the gameplay. I mean, didn't dilute the decks in a major way, so it was easy to just add a few to play up the thematic element. So you're not simply using the special rules for the house major troops, the frigates, and the Guild Navigator, but you're also have tweaks and special abilities that can be triggered by playing a special planning card.
So, finally, I guess the million-dollar question: when will this be available, Aranha?
This will be available right now. I think as soon as we finish this live stream, we're going to post the update where we try to go even more in depth in the update and show everything and explain a bit the mechanics. Like if we weren't too clear here, you'll be able to learn more there on the update, and it will be available for to add to your pledge right away. And I'm very excited. Like this is I think it's a beautiful expansion. I love the theme of it. The fact that we were able to add such a kind of a wild card into this game, like all this space stuff, but it has its role in this desert warfare. I think it's really exciting to add that extra board, add that extra competition with new strategies. We have new planning cards that interact with everything. Cool.
Yeah, I think it was especially from the point of view of how production was able to make it to look so good. Because the sideboard is a fairly simple thing, but in practice it works very well to show this sort of race in bringing new forces into the battle, and also gives the idea of this horizon of this distant landscape of planets, in addition to just the surface of planet Arrakis, without losing the focus of the game, that is the fight on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're only 2 days into the campaign. We still have almost a week to go, 6 days or something.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and it's already a lot, so much, and still so much to go. We are probably reaching the end of our time here. You guys have any final words for our audience?
Well, we still have plenty of cool things that we hope we're able to unlock and show to you guys. And be prepared to appreciate what you meet.
True. What about you, Francisco?
Yeah, I'm absolutely, of course, eager once again to see. But I'm very much in the same position of many of the fans, because, of course, all the production elements are coming together fairly recently. So I'm really very much almost in the same place as everyone else out there when the previews come out and the pictures. In fact, we envy Thiago so much because he has the figures there. But we don't envy him for his hour of work in the night. He's actually our hero.
Yeah. True. But he gets to play with the planes, like wow.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I guess that's what we have for today. I think Aranha has a very important update to publish very soon.
I have to go to sleep. Isa will do it.
Good. Isa,
we know we're there. I hope you all had a great time here. I hope you are enjoying the campaign. We still have so much to show you, and we're really glad to have you with us. It's very exciting for us when stuff we have been working on for so long starts to reach people and they get as excited as we are. So thank you all.
Let's just enjoy Dune. Come on, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you all next week.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Thiago.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.